Okay, so this is going to be a very different smartphone review. Okay, so when companies like Xiaomi send us phones like the Poco F7 Ultra to review, we also get a PDF guide, which is a kind of hints and tips document for reviewers. So they give you a few things that you can try out on it. You don't have to, it's entirely up to you. But you also get a spec document as well, which has all the specs, all the camera specs, the chip, the memory options, all that stuff. I've not looked at any of that. No, that's not true. I've looked at the pricing and the fact that it has a Snapdragon 8 Elite chip inside here. Now, this isn't because I don't respect the review process or any of that rubbish. It's because I want to try something different with this particular review. And the reason for that is because of the pricing. So this Ultra version here, there's also the F7 Pro, but the Ultra that I have here is the 512 gig version, which has, I'm going straight into specs, brilliant. These are the only specs I know. It's got 16 gig of RAM and it has the, like I say, the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, and it's $699. However, it's not the cheapest. If you go for the 256 gig version, which has 12 gig of RAM and still has the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, it's 649 quid. And the F7 Pro is even cheaper. We'll put the prices down here in the specs. It's a very cheap, for want of a better phrase, Snapdragon 8 Elite phone. And for that reason, I just thought I'd take it on holiday and see what it's like. I'm also going to Singapore tomorrow for the launch of these phones, and I will be doing lots of Instagram stuff with the camera system on here. So if you want to see what this is really like, make sure you follow me on Instagram. We'll put the little link in the description and down here. But yeah, let's get into this very interesting phone. Let's talk about the design, and I think this looks like a very smart smartphone because it is, it's not particularly garish, it's got very big Poco branding at the bottom there that you can see. This is the black version and there are other colors that you can choose from, but I do like this version. No, it doesn't have the kind of brushed or polished aluminium sides that you get on a flagship iPhone or a flagship Samsung device, for instance, but I don't think it needs them. It's very stealthy. The camera bump isn't too big. You can just see that there. It's nice and defined, but also doesn't stick out too much, which means it doesn't rock too much at all, actually, on a surface. It's a great looking phone. The display, wonderful. Remember, I haven't read the spec document here, so I don't know how big this is, but it feels about as big as an iPhone 16 Pro Max. It's a lot bigger than the iPhone 16e, but then equally the iPhone 16e has a dreadful display compared to this, because I can guarantee this has a 120 hertz display. Of course it does. It's really bright in outdoor sunlight. It's really bright outside. So when I was walking around Sherwood Forest this weekend, I could see it perfectly. There were no problems there whatsoever. Got a tiny pinhole camera, which is good for selfies. It's done a really good job with selfies. So yeah, display, fantastic, bright, fast, big, looks great when you're watching content. I watched plenty of YouTube stuff over the weekend as well on this, and it was great. What else do I say about the design? It's great. So I've been testing the Poco F7 Ultra's performance and software for a while now, but if there's one thing that every smartphone needs help with, it's helping protect your data online. That's why I've been using today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. Going online without a VPN is like using your phone without a case. Most of the time you're absolutely fine until you're not. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, etc., your online data is not secured. Any hacker on the same network can gain access and steal your personal data, which could include passwords, financial details, basically anything you hold dear. But thankfully, these are risks that you no longer need to take thanks to ExpressVPN. With a single click, ExpressVPN locks all of that down by encrypting and rerouting your connection through their secure servers. And their encryption, it's so secure it would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to crack. Plus, it's stupidly easy to use. You just open the app, tap one button, and boom, you're protected. I use it on my phones, my laptops, my iPads, and that means I'm covered wherever I go. Protect yourself online today at expressvpn.com/Mark Ellis, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free. Let me talk about performance very quickly. So this has the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip in here, as I mentioned earlier, which means you're basically getting flagship performance for mid-range money, which is mind-blowing. I know technically, in fact, you're not even getting that with the 16e, are you? Because this has a slightly crippled version of the A18, and it's not even the A18 Pro that you get in the Pro and Pro Max. This Poco phone is genuinely offering flagship smartphone performance at a fraction of the cost. And if you kind of combine that with, well, firstly, if you combine it with the operating system, which is Xiaomi's Hyper OS, which, as I've said numerous times recently, I Can't see much of a difference between the different Android flavors that are out there. They're all really good because Android itself is really good, and Xiaomi are very considerate with their dusting of Android. It's a very nice take on Android 15. Simple as that. But if you combine that operating system with that display and that Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, it's unbelievably good value. I don't game on my phones, I don't do benchmarks, but there will be reviews of this phone out there that go into that in detail. So once you've watched all of this review, obviously, go and check them out. But on the face of it, and on the premise of me just using this as a smartphone, you are genuinely getting flagship performance for very little money. Okay, the camera system. Now this is a very refreshing review because I don't actually know what the camera specs of this phone are, which makes using it and testing it incredibly interesting. And the one thing I'll say immediately about the camera system in the Poco F7 Ultra is that it is really, really good. To the point where I don't care what happens when I press 5x. We will confirm down below here if 5x is optical or not, but I don't care if it is or if it isn't, because every time I switched to 5x, in two scenarios, one was on holiday in Sherwood Forest Centre Parks, which was a lovely weekend away, and there were just certain instances where I needed to get a nice 5x photo of something. That worked brilliantly there. And even more impressively, at a incredible day I had at the Top Gear, the X Top Gear test track with the original, not the original, the longest standing ex-Stig, Ben Collins, which was a day that I will not forget. I won't start talking about it now, I'll just keep showing you the photos because if I start talking about it, I won't stop. But I used this camera extensively during that day, and the 5x came into its own. Whether or not this is digital or not, I have no idea, but I don't care. It takes great photos. Equally, the standard zoom lens, I have no idea what focal length it is. It feels standard. It's probably about 24mm or something. It takes lovely photos. They're quite processed, as is every Android and even the iPhone. Every smartphone camera system at the moment takes fairly processed photos out of the box, but you can tweak them, you can shoot RAW, you can do all that sort of stuff. But for me, it passed the test of just taking photos that I liked looking at afterwards. Portrait, beautiful. The portraits of my son, of this squirrel, great. I'm really happy with these photos. Zoom wise, once you go beyond 5x, and again, this isn't specific to the Poco F7 Ultra, every single zoom range I've tried beyond 10x in Android land and on the iPhone is just a bit AI-ified. It's using AI to fill in the gaps, as you can see on this Pancake House sign. It's very much processed, as you can see. The same thing as we kept zooming into this squirrel here. Lots of photos of squirrels, apologies. Again, it does the job, but it's a bit over-processed for my liking. Video-wise, wow, no problem with the video whatsoever. I think it looks great. It goes up to 8K, this camera. Let me just double check, is that true? Because it is 649 quid. If I go into the video settings, yes, 8K, only one frame rate, unbelievably, 24 frames per second, but I can confirm there, hello, yeah, 8K, which I didn't try because I don't shoot 8K video on my phone. I don't shoot 8K anywhere, to be honest, but it even does 8K video. So the camera system, from just a weekend of using it for family stuff and an incredible day at the Top Gear test track, has been really, really impressive. I will be really putting it through its paces in Singapore, so remember, follow me on Instagram to see the results of that, because I'm very much looking forward to really putting it, like I say, through its paces in a completely different country with lots of, I would guess, fairly challenging shooting conditions. But again, 649 quid, it's a very good camera system. Battery performance. Now, having done a few YouTube polls, I know that for most people who buy smartphones these days, the battery life is still top of the list. That and the camera performance are probably neck and neck, I would have thought, but that is what matters. And if you're looking at a mid-range phone like the Poco F7 Ultra, I would guess that you're coming from an earlier device which probably has a fairly bad battery these days. So you want something that is going to be very good. The good news is about this phone, and remember, I have no idea what battery is in here. I have no idea what size it is, what technology it uses. I know that it has the 120 watt fast charging because you get this power brick in the box, but apart from that, no idea. What I do know is that it's incredible. So basically, I charged this before we went away to Centre Parks, and then 81 hours, I had to make a note of this because I didn't believe it, 81 hours into the holiday, it still had 5 hours remaining. So when I went into the battery performance thing in the operating system, it had 81 hours on the clock. I hadn't charged it in over 3 days, basically, and I was using it. Yes, my iPhone 16e is my main smartphone, obviously, but when I'm testing phones like this in this manner, I treat it like my main phone. It has a SIM card in here. I have 2 SIM cards because I'm weird. And it did 81 hours and it still had stuff in the tank. In fact, that was yesterday. I woke up this morning having still not put it on charge and it still had about 7% remaining. So again, battery life, amazing. And this brings me to the value for money. You know where this is going. The value for money thing about this phone. Okay, value for money. This might be one of the most value-tastic Android smartphones I've ever come across. It does have lots of competition. There's loads of stuff in that kind of mid-range to kind of almost, creeping into flagship territory Android land. If you're looking in that area, you are spoilt for choice, honestly. But Poco may not be on your list. It may not be there. It should be, because this F7 Ultra, if you take into account the design, now I did drop this on holiday as well. I dropped it onto concrete from about this height, and yes, it's got a few battle scars here and there, but nothing particularly bad. So it's clearly quite tough. It looks great. It's got the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, so it's got flagship performance. The display is flagship worthy, and the battery life is just bonkers. You tie all of that into a sub 700 quid phone, and you've got what I think is an almost unbeatable mid-range Android phone. Did I just say that? I did. Over to you now, guys. As always, let me know in the comments if you fancy picking up a Poco F7 Ultra. If so, why? If not, why? And while you're there, just click that subscribe button, please. It makes a massive difference. See you in the next video.